Hello, I'm Dale Leftwich with Real Agriculture. I'm at Crops here with Katie Dilse from North Dakota. How are you doing today, Katie?
I'm doing very well. This is a wonderful convention, and it's really wonderful to be with your producers and all the team players in agriculture, especially here in Canada.
Well, it's certainly wonderful to have you. Katie is a farmer and a public speaker, and you travel around the country giving talks, but that's not how you started out.
No, I grew up on a farm,
Right.
and I actually farm with my husband, and we're on a fourth generation family farm, and we are blessed with 4 young boys, and together, and with some really, really great hired hands, we work to build our business on our farm.
And how did you then, you met your husband at university, and you started a family, and you're a truck driver, and this is what you do, but for the last 5 years, you're starting to go around and encourage farmers and try to build up their enthusiasm, I guess. How did you start into that?
You know, I started by actually volunteering for conferences, and I would spend many months helping to prepare for these big conferences, and I would introduce speakers, and finally they're like, Katie, why are you not speaking? I'm like, I'm not sure why. And I had a wonderful mentor who took me underneath her wing and taught me all about the business of speaking so that I can share my passion for people and my passion for agriculture. It's a beautiful mix.
Well, you really do bring your enthusiasm and get people in the crowd to become enthusiastic as well. I know sometimes there is a bit of a cultural difference. Canadians have a tendency to sit on their hands a little bit and not quite show, I don't think, as much enthusiasm as you might expect further south. But you did a really good job. Why is it that you think it's so important to bring enthusiasm to these audiences?
I think we get so caught up in the day-to-day and the mundane, the routine, that we forget, like, how cool is it to get to be a farmer? How cool is it to be working and watching a plant grow from that small seed and watching that all happen and have the beautiful sunrise and sunset, and to be our own bosses and to raise our family while we're working. There's beautiful things that we need to keep alive and keep celebrating.
Well, that's one of the really strong themes that you had in your talk today, was this idea of perspective. And I think you gave several stories. You told stories of how farmers sometimes lose their perspective, either a hailstorm or something else comes through. You want to just talk about the importance of that perspective, just outline that a little further?
You know what? I believe that it's very important to just make sure that we know what's important to us and keep our eye on that, because our perspective can ebb and flow like the grain markets or like the tendencies on our farm. But if we're able to really see, okay, like, why are we doing this in the very, very first place? What's important to us? Okay, it's important for me to be with my husband and work with him. It's important to raise our children knowing that hard work is good, but to do work is really, really a responsibility, and you're making a difference for all over the world. I think that's important, to just keep our eye on why we do what we do and not lose that focus.
And so what you're doing then is to bring that perspective to larger groups. Like, you're really working. Why is it important, do you think, that you come from a county of, what, 7 farmers?
The county is the least densely populated county in the nation. It's very, very small. It's called Slope County, and 7 farmers is kind of in our little jurisdiction, maybe our township, but there are not many of us, and it is important to make sure we're planted wherever we are, but the world is accessible to us as long as we're willing to share our gifts and to be brave enough to share our gifts. To be a voice for agriculture is really a really, really fun job.
And you think that's a perspective that really needs to be more widely held, that when you go to a lot of these different places, you find a lot of farmers who are just sort of getting into whatever's right in front of them, and they lose sight of the big picture, what's really important?
You can, because that's so easy to do, because there's tax that needs to be done. There's a crop that needs to be planted, and that's what's important. Well, Mother's Day happens to fall in that spring planting, and how do we make sure that is also honored, that our family time is also honored during that time?
You want to give a few other examples just about the kinds of things that we really, like, really, sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees, right? So can you give a couple of other examples just about how important the forest is, like the big picture?
The big picture is really about going back to why we started this in the first place. Like, we have to make sure we're rooted in that, so that when we go through these other things, that we can come back to, oh, but I am here and I am called to be a steward of the land. And that's what's most important. We're going to get through the shortage of inoculant, or we're going to get through a canola that won't bloom in time. We're going to get through these other things. But the big picture is, I want to be with my family and I want to spend time with my friends. I want to be at the baseball game when my kids are up to bat. So we better get our work done during the day to make sure, hey, I'm right behind home plate and I'm going to be cheering so loud for those kids.
Very, very good. Thank you very much for coming up to Crops here in Saskatoon. This is Dale Leftwich with Real Agriculture and Katie Dilse from North Dakota.
Thank you, Dale.